Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. Looking at the college football playoff picture as it sits here on October 24th, I know we got a lot more football to play, And there's always chaos, and there are always crazy things that happen. And more often than not, we're ending up with the same, 6 or 7 teams. That's kind of how it's gone. TCU stuck their head in. Cincinnati stuck their head in. Michigan State, Washington. But it's been a lot of Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan. That's kind of been where things have centered. And Oklahoma's certainly been in there a good note, too. So that's what we default to. But I just wanted to see, at this point, who's left? And where does LSU fit into this situation, if they do at all? And really, this was all triggered by me reading a Pac-12 story that called USC out of the college football playoff mix. And they might be with their second loss and how the conference championship thing works over there, and the fact that they've got a couple, maybe. They've only got one loss in league. So I just wanted to take a look at it. So let's just bear with me. I think it's boiled down pretty simply here. I'm going to go conference by conference and just tell you where I think things stand. In the SEC, Georgia's unbeaten. They've still got Florida, Missouri, Ole Miss, at Tennessee. Those are reasonable football games. I don't think Florida's going to beat them. I don't think Missouri is going to beat them either, but Missouri's played well. Ole Miss going to Athens, you give them a chance. I mean, look, Georgia didn't play great against Auburn. Didn't play great against South Carolina. So, we'll see. Plus the SEC championship game. But I feel pretty good about Georgia. I think most people do, and you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt at this point. Bama's 7-1. They play LSU. They're at Kentucky. They play Chattanooga, and they have the Iron Bowl in Auburn, plus a potential SEC championship game, which we think they would need to win. Need to win to get in. If you're not a conference champion and you have 2 losses, I don't like your chances. So for Alabama, that's going to be their roadmap. Obviously, LSU's 6-2. I still think LSU is in this mix. You give me LSU loss to an unbeaten Florida State on the road, and you give me an LSU loss kind of at the gun at Ole Miss, but wins over Alabama and Georgia, which is what you would have, I think they'd have a chance. Now, we need to see the rest of the thing play out. And if I've got 3 unbeaten conference champions, there could be some issues. I'm not proclaiming that LSU's certainly in with that. I think they're in the discussion if they were to do that. And then Ole Miss is 6-1. They play Vanderbilt. They play Texas A&M in Oxford. They're at Georgia. They play ULM, and they're at Mississippi State. I'm not as prone to betting on Ole Miss here. I think that they will probably lose a game, at least, maybe 2. So, to me, Georgia is likely to make the college football playoff. And I think that LSU and Alabama are unlikely to make the college football playoff because I think that LSU and Alabama are both going to lose again. Bama may lose to LSU for their second loss. LSU may lose to Bama or to Georgia. Bama could go to the Southeastern Conference Championship game and lose to Georgia. I'm not saying that I'm giving Georgia that game or that they're significantly better than LSU or Alabama. I just feel that's the most likely scenario, that LSU and Alabama each lose another game. But that's where we sit in the SEC. There are 4 teams kind of kicking the tires. In the ACC, to me, it's just Florida State. They're 7-0. They're at Wake. They're at Pittsburgh. They play Miami, North Alabama, and at Florida. I think it's reasonable to expect them to go undefeated, and maybe they drop a game here or there, but I don't trust Louisville or North Carolina at all. Those are the 2 one-loss teams in the ACC. They're going to lose. So to me, the ACC is Florida State. I'm just not going to give Louisville and North Carolina the benefit of the doubt. The Big Ten is interesting. The whole West has 2 losses and is done, and they're also not very good at football. But Penn State against Michigan is in Happy Valley. Ohio State, Michigan is in Ann Arbor. So if Michigan wins at Penn State, Ohio State and Michigan are probably going to play each other as unbeatens, which opens up a lot of situations because the winner is going to be on easy street in the Big Ten championship game against some awful team from the West. The loser is going to be sitting there going, yeah, that's the only game I lost. Can I get in? Both may have a case. I think Ohio State and Michigan are very much in it. Penn State's got some work to do because They need potentially to get into a tiebreaker with the round robin deal if they can beat Michigan. I don't know. They're kind of on the outside looking in, but I can't rule them completely out at this point. Pac-12, Washington's the only unbeaten team left in the Pac-12. USC's got 2 losses. They can still get to the Pac-12 championship game, but it feels like they're trending in the wrong direction. Utah's got no quarterback. Cam Rising is not going to play the rest of the season. So Washington's remaining schedule as an undefeated at Stanford, who's not good, at USC, certainly a losable game, Utah, who I don't think is quite as good, and they have to come to Seattle. Then they're at Oregon State, who's number 11 in the country, by the way, and I don't know that I was fully aware of that. And then they play Washington State in the Apple Cup at the end of the season. I think a one-loss Washington and a one-loss Pac-12 champion Oregon, if they were to run the table and beat Washington in the Pac-12 championship, would both have a real case to get in. I think a one-loss Pac-12 champion probably looks pretty good on paper. Now, 6-1 Oregon State, their last 2 games are Washington at home and at Oregon. So those are probably the 2 best teams out there, and that's who Oregon State plays last. I don't believe Oregon State's got the horses to get home there, so I'm going to say that they're not going to make it, and I'm going to bet against USC as well. So Washington and Oregon, to me, are the 2 Pac-12 teams that are squarely in the mix. In the Big 12, there's only 2 teams alive here. It's 6-1 Texas and 7-0 Oklahoma, and I think the rest of the league stinks. I'm just not sitting here feeling warm and fuzzy about Kansas. I'm just not. I'm not sitting here feeling warm and fuzzy about Iowa State or Oklahoma State. Those are just not good football teams. So if you look at this, and it's amazing, Oklahoma's got no ranked opponents left on the schedule. They're Kansas, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, BYU, and TCU. Texas has no ranked teams left. Like, it's a bad body of work for Oklahoma outside of being an undefeated conference champion. Texas, on the other hand, might get the fortune of that big out-of-conference win. They earned it in Tuscaloosa, which could be huge. I have been public about my thoughts on LSU, saying, hey, might want to ease up on those games, on scheduling those games, because right now, if LSU had played Rice instead of Florida State, the whole discussion's different. But you played Florida State. But this might be the inverse of that. Well, you took a chance. You went on the road to Tuscaloosa, and you won. Now, if you lose to Oklahoma again in the Big 12 championship game, and you're a 2-loss non-conference champion, well, then you get out. But if you start to get into a battle with the one-loss non-Big Ten champion that's in the Big Ten, or if you get into a battle with the 2-loss SEC champion LSU, well, now all of a sudden that win in Tuscaloosa looks pretty good. Now LSU can obviously match it. But what if Georgia loses the SEC championship game as an unbeaten? It's interesting, to say the least. So to me, how many teams are left? How many teams are left in this battle? I'm not giving the benefit of the doubt to Oregon State or Louisville or North Carolina. I think these are the teams that are left. Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, and Oklahoma. I think that's it. And quite honestly, these are the top dogs in the sport. Clemson's not in this mix, and they're still a top dog, I would suggest. And USC's not on this list, and they're going to have their day under Lincoln Riley, we think, but they haven't been in the last 5-6 years. But I think there's 12 teams left, and I believe that LSU is one of them. I could be proven wrong, because if you get an undefeated Washington and an undefeated Oklahoma, and you get an undefeated Ohio State and a one-loss Michigan, and all those teams show up, and Florida State's undefeated, like LSU's going to be an odd man out with a 2-loss SEC champion, I think. I would love it if I was wrong. I would love it if the committee said, yeah, you went to Tuscaloosa and won, and you beat Georgia and Atlanta. I know you got 2 losses, but we'll let you in. But that day has not come, where teams where they prioritize the wins that you have as opposed to how many losses do you have. That's always been the most important thing. It was the most important thing in the AP poll days. It was the most important thing in the BCS days. And it's been the most important thing in this era of college football, which is the playoff. They prioritize how many games you lost as opposed to what great wins can you show us. We'll see. But I think LSU is in the mix. You're just going to have to do a lot of work. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.